Hey, Brad is here. I am here. It is Thanksgiving week. We
Yeah.
started a little early today to kind of, kick. I don't know. I don't know what your work schedule is like tomorrow, but it's been pretty slow at work, and I've been being a little bit more on call than like sort of constantly at my desk this week, which is good. It means
Oh yeah.
people are especially for my website, people are kind of hanging out and not doing too much. But
Right.
yeah, so we're gonna do quick hits on some of the news that came out. A lot of the news literally came out the day after we recorded last week, so
Of
some of it'll
course.
be a little older for folks, but we haven't had a chance to talk about it. But I guess the first thing before we even start with the Aaron Judge stuff is what's the deal for Thanksgiving? How are you guys doing it? Are you big party, little party? What's going on?
Yeah. So my mom every year invites both Denise's family and our family and extended family and stuff together. So we're doing that Thursday. It's in town, which is good. Um, Actually took tomorrow off of work because I'm one of those people that the day before Thanksgiving, I'll go into the garage and I will bring down the Christmas buckets and all the decorations and all our fake trees and all that stuff. So tomorrow, I'm going to spend the day watching soccer in the morning, and then decorating the house for Christmas and getting it ready. And then the big turkey bash on Thursday. Sit around and watch football and soccer because of the World Cup. Yeah, but yeah, we stay in town, and then we spend Friday, Saturday, and Sunday just kind of finishing up the decorations, listening to Christmas music, and just kind of generally chilling out. And I swear, every Thanksgiving weekend, that Sunday around 4 o'clock, we
Hmm.
go, where did those 4 or 5 days go? Because they go by so fast.
Do you guys do like a special food dish? Is it traditional? Like, is there a little Evans wrinkle there that some people may not be aware of?
No, that's the Christmas Eve stuff. That's the Spaniard Christmas Eve stuff. The Thanksgiving barbecue turkey. I don't know if that's out of the ordinary for most people, but that's what we do. We barbecue a turkey every year. Um, there was one year, I think. Oh yeah, during COVID, we couldn't really get together, so I barbecued a turkey here for our family, and that was fun. Sat out, and I got the outdoor fire pit going. Had that. It was probably 25 degrees. So I had everything, and I was just kind of sitting around everything that was lit on fire, watching football. Um, but no wrinkles. I mean, the stuffing is kind of a family tradition stuffing, going back a few years, but no, nothing crazy. We save that for Christmas Eve with the paella and the
There you
cioppino,
go.
and oh yeah, that
Oh my
stuff
God, that sounds
that
delicious.
that gets wild, man.
Cioppino is one of those things that if I had the opportunity to, I would eat way more often than I
Yes.
do. But you go to a restaurant and, you have to find certain restaurants that would serve it. But oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's so good.
Yeah, there's a couple around here in Reno that do a pretty good job. There's some Basque restaurants in Reno, so there's actually some really good Spanish slash French gypsy type of food, like that type of stuff. Uh, but yeah, the cioppino is a family recipe, and the paella is Spanish family recipe, and that's the one that, oh my gosh, I don't normally eat rice, but man,
Yeah.
you put paella in front of me, I don't care whose recipe it is, and I will devour it, and then I'll take the leftovers and I'll eat it for like 3 or 4 days, no problem. So,
Speaking of rice, that is going to
yeah.
be the whole wrinkle to our Thanksgiving because obviously my parents are in Arizona, so
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are doing their own Thanksgiving. But my mom historically was white rice with gravy over mashed potatoes. And
There you
so my
go.
youngest, he's the one who's still hung up on the traditional or like the way that my mom did it. So
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a couple things that we kind of have to still do so that he won't be frustrated. But that's one. So we just have random steamed rice with though
Nice.
that's how I would prefer to eat it as well. But I like mashed
Yeah,
potatoes.
yeah.
But yeah. So no, it'll be a blast. And like you said, there's nothing but football. There's like 3 games on that
3
day.
games.
How many
Start
World
with
Cup games are
soccer
there?
in the morning. With the World Cup starting today. So yesterday there were only 3 matches. Today there were 4, and then going forward there's 4 every day in the
So
group
even
stage.
on Thanksgiving.
Even on Thanksgiving. First game is 2 a.m. And then there's a 5 a.m. So we get up at 5:30 on work days. So I've been able to watch pretty much the 5 o'clock matches on. And tomorrow morning, my team Spain plays at 8 a.m. So I'll definitely be up. On my days off, I'm up at 6:37, anyways. But I'll be up at 8 o'clock. Cup of coffee. Got a new coffee mug coming tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Um, because it's so dang cold here in Reno, and we turn off the heater at night
Yeah.
because it's a small house. The heater
Yeah.
wakes you up and it
Yeah.
dries you out. So it's about 58 degrees in the house when we get up in the morning, and before we could turn on the heater. So I get up in the morning and I start to drink my coffee. And lately I've been noticing that I get about 3-4 sips in, I put it down, I get distracted, I come
Yeah,
back to drink it
cold.
like
Yeah.
15. It's like an ice cube.
Yeah.
So I found a Chewbacca Corksicle insulated coffee mug with a
Nice.
lid. So I bought that. It's coming today. That'll be my first shot tomorrow. Is I'll fill that sucker up and I'll have nice piping hot coffee for 2 hours of soccer. I'm very excited.
There you
It
go.
doesn't take much. It's the little things, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. The little gimmicks that just make your life that tiny, tiny, tiny percent easier.
Yeah.
All right. So people see my on video, you
Mhm.
can see my 49ers hat.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike Gilbert, my buddy Mike Gilbert was substitution for
Okay.
Rod last night on our podcast because Rod was in Mexico City watching the game live. And
That's
if you
awesome.
haven't heard that, check that out. It is in this feed, BSPN feed for people watching on video. It is on the BSPN YouTube channel, and it's actually got a nice little chunk of hits there. So good on that. I thought it was a really fun show, and it's always fun when your team wins. So it's positive. You know, you're not nitpicking. It's not, oh, Jimmy G, come on. It was like, oh, Jimmy G.
Yeah, he's on. So I get a waiver wire update every week of like who do you want to grab? Who do you want to grab? He's on there. He's on the waiver wire grabs this week. So
Yeah.
there you go, man. Playing
Jimmy
well.
G. All right. So let's talk about the first couple of things that are on the list. And yesterday we saw that a young man who we are trying to sign to our baseball team, who is from the Northern California area, was shown as coming off the plane. Did he fly into SFO? Is that how people saw him?
I would assume so. I think he came into San Francisco. Yeah.
And supposedly, though I haven't heard a peep out of anybody who does Giants coverage, that he was supposed to meet with the team today. And I'll quickly look at notifications of Baggerly and Pavlovich, but Baggerly is off Twitter because he doesn't like the Elon Musk aspect of it. So it's all up to Pavlovich, man. Pavlovich might have Giants Twitter all by himself here, but no updates. So supposedly
I do have one.
Oh, you do?
I do have one. There was one earlier today. I forgot to send it to you, and I went looking for it earlier. Then I got distracted, came back. So I'll just read it here on the air. It's a tweet via KNBR. And John Morosi, who's Giants or not Giants writer, but a
National
baseball
writer,
writer,
yeah.
national writer. He was on with Papa and Lund today, and he said, "quote My understanding is this meeting is still going on." That was 4 hours ago.
Okay.
And this afternoon, it's an all-day type of experience. I'm sure he's going to see the ballpark. I would expect the Giants will play heavily on that emotion. This is the team in which Judge fell in love with the game. So that was the quote from Morosi today.
And we've talked about this. Rich Aurelia, his favorite player when he was growing up.
Yeah.
When Judge was going for the 60, he and Bonds were very friendly back and forth. Bonds was like, we need to bring he was still playing for the Yankees, and Bonds was like, no, we got to bring him down. That's like tampering much, Barry? Come on.
but if Barry's not on the Giants payroll, maybe
exactly.
I don't know.
And then there's
little nuances too.
Yeah. Then there was the funny story where he got a Jonathan Sanchez autograph. So he's from this area. It doesn't mean anything. It's still going to come down to who gives him the best contract or the contract that suits his needs the best. Like that's what it's going to come down to. But if you have a little bit of this nostalgia and this fandom and this childhood stuff kind of leaning in your favor, maybe if the contract is the same as the other team, maybe that stuff helps you get the job done. We've talked about it, the whole idea of him playing into his late 30s. He probably becomes solely a DH at that point. So the contract has to be smart as well. But I think we all are hoping that he becomes the guy, because then if he's not the guy, then you quickly move on to some of the next players. And that's kind of what we'll talk about here. Lots of Carlos Correa talk of late. I know Baggerly did a mailbag and he mentioned him, and he, as like sort of the guy, if Judge doesn't come and, we don't think Trey Turner is probably likely, then all eyes go to Carlos Correa. And the one thing about Correa is he plays shortstop, and so does Brandon Crawford. And there's a little bit of a thing there. I mean, I'm sure Brandon Crawford would be a really good second baseman if they wanted him to play there, or, maybe Correa could play third. There's options in both ways, but man, that would also be a lot of fun. So what do you think about this Carlos Correa talk?
That's a tough one, man. I've been asked that a few times this offseason. I'm not a fan of the guy. I think he was a little cocky about the whole 2017 cheating scandal.
He's pretty he's kind of a young dude, kind of like the way that I look, you look at guys. Does he reach the Machado scale? Because the Machado scale is, that's and I believe Manny has calmed down in his
He's
older
calmed
years
down a little bit.
I don't see Correa in the Machado scale. So I get what you're saying, but I don't sense that he's necessarily a bad person at the same time.
No, definitely not a bad person. I think he's just cocky. And again, in baseball, you know what the Giants don't have didn't have this last year was cocky. They didn't have anybody.
No swagger.
They had no swagger. Zero. Jock Peterson brought the swagger in spring training.
Rodon was a little bit fiery, but
and it was just kind of a little up and down, and it felt like, oh, it's going to peak. Oh, they're going to get cocky. It's going to start. No, it never happened. So the Giants, I mean, you could argue that they need something like that. I would be okay with that. And I think he could probably play second base. He could probably play third base. The Giants are always going to be looking for players who are good defensive players that could pop around the infield or pop around to all three outfield spots if you're an outfielder, not just like, grab a guy and he is a center fielder only, like a Cody Bellinger. You are a center fielder only. That's all you can play. Bellinger could play left field. He could play right field. He's a good defensive player. So I think I would be okay with that. But I want to ask you a question. I did find on Twitter the handle at MLB Nerds. So this is not our friends Bat Flips and Nerds. This is at MLB Nerds. They have a lot of followers, quite a few followers.
Did you follow them from our Thompson and Clark account?
You know what? I didn't do that yet.
We should do that. I'll do that.
Yeah,
we should. I'll do that.
Do that as I'm telling you. So they did a nice, a fun little 11 series, 11 tweet series, free agent tracker, free agent predictions, and it's easy to follow along because they're pictures and with the team's logos. So if you're like me, who's kind of a brain dead idiot sometimes, I like pictures with logos. Make it simple, because when I'm searching through, I don't want to just read names and then the team they might go to. No. I want to know all this stuff. So in their predictors, they did not have Aaron Judge going to us. They had him going back to the Yankees.
Yeah.
So I had a question for you. I went through all of their 11 series, and I thought, the ones that they predicted for us, would Garrett be cool with us getting these 5 players instead of the one Aaron Judge? So here we go.
I will tell you. I just followed them on Twitter. And maybe I'll retweet some of these and just mention the podcast. But number 11 hurt my feelings immediately.
Oh no.
Brandon Belt to the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah, I didn't. I didn't want to break that to you.
Okay, go for
it. All right. So one of the players of the 5 that we would possibly get, according to these predictions by @MLB Nerds, is Taylor Rogers, the brother of Tyler Rogers, and that's been kicked around quite a bit. That's a pretty good rumor because Taylor and Tyler playing together on the same team would be pretty awesome. Taylor's a fantastic relief pitcher.
Yeah.
He tanked a little bit in the end of the season last year once he got over to Milwaukee, finished with an 81 ERA plus, but before that he was always above 100 ERA plus, up in the 130s, 140s sometimes. So he's one of the players. Another one, catcher Wilson Contreras, a 3.9 WAR.
Interesting.
Yeah. 3.9
so
him and Joey Bart.
Right. So we would have to figure out the Bart thing immediately. Does that make Bart tradable immediately?
It possibly does. You can have Bart face left-handed batter or left-handed pitchers. You know what? I forgot to check what Wilson Contreras is.
Contreras is a right-handed hitter.
Okay, so he's a righty. So yeah, there's
he hit 22 jacks last year.
Mm-hmm.
OPS of 815.
Yeah.
And he is 30 years old. And so I imagine, I didn't look at the contract. Is the reason why the Cubs are willing to trade him because they will have to pay him at some point? Or is he a free agent this year?
I believe he is
next year.
I think he is a free agent this year, actually. Because I don't know if he would be on this list.
Oh, right. Because it is it's a free agent list. So the Giants would have to go 5 years, whatever he's going to make. He's probably I don't know what catchers are making.
Well, he made 9.6 last year, and he'll be 31. So 31-year-old catcher with pop, though. I mean, catchers have their own market, really, when it comes down to it. So
right.
But yeah, I'm not really sure on the contracts of these because I just liked looking at and saying if there was no Judge with a 10.6 WAR, but we got these other players, would it make me feel better about the situation?
Spot Track has his calculated value at 4 years, $65 million, so about a $16 million average salary.
Okay,
per year.
And the Giants could do that. They certainly could do that. And they can move Bart, get some young talent in his place. There's a lot of things the Giants can do. They're very flexible right now with their roster.
Yeah. Okay. So Rogers and Contreras are the first two.
Yep. Carlos Correa, who we just talked about,
5.4
WAR last year. Got off to a little bit of a slow start in Minnesota, but so would you if you had to play in 25-degree weather in spring,
especially if you're a Latin American player who's used to, yeah.
And San Francisco is not the warmest place in the spring, but you still it would still be okay. AJ Pollock with his 0.4 WAR. But he had a 3.1 WAR the year before with the Dodgers. So last year was a little bit of an off year with the White Sox.
And he would be our right-handed DH to Jock's left-handed DH, essentially?
Correct, because the fifth player that they predicted was Jock Peterson with his 1.3 WAR. And I think they made this prediction after the Giants had extended the offer to him, but before he had accepted it. So I think they kind of knew like, okay, well, he's going to accept that. So this is a slam dunk. Let's put Jock Peterson on there with his 1.3 WAR. So would that make you feel okay? Taylor Rogers, Wilson Contreras, Carlos Correa, AJ Pollock, Jock Peterson, but no Judge.
I like the Correa piece. I like the Pollock piece. Obviously, Jock is here. I'm kind of wondering now. I'm trying to look at this list because would you rather have a starter or a reliever? I feel like the Giants need a starter because who are they going to plug into the Rodon spot here?
Yeah, and I think this is just kind of the top 5 that the Giants would go with. There's got to be some starters in there. If that happened, it wouldn't be a big splash starter.
Yeah, it'd be like a
Um,
Kluber for 1 year or something like that.
it would be reclamation projects, which the Giants are very good at. I think they would go that route. They could go the trade route. They could finally start dipping into the minor league pool and saying, "Look, this is how we're going to have to do it to get a controllable, good young arm, or a controllable arm who's about to explode, and we think we know what it takes to put him over the hump." So I think it's going to have to be that situation. Would I rather have Taylor Rogers over I mean, let's just throw Rodon out there.
Yeah,
Obviously, I'd like to have Rodon.
right.
I just don't know if we're ever going to give a pitcher a 7-year contract. More. I mean, if Rodon was 5 years, if he would settle on 5 years with the
I mean, he
Giants,
may have to. I mean,
yeah,
it's all about what the market is, right? I don't. Are
yeah.
teams going to give him a 7-year contract?
Uh somebody might. The Yankees might. Um, the Dodgers, if I don't know. See, and the Dodgers don't do that either. I don't know exactly what their offer was to Scherzer, if they even offered him anything
Yeah.
when he walked last year.
I feel like teams today, when it comes to starting pitching, it's like NFL teams with running backs. It's like,
Yeah.
once you hit that age limit, we're kind of doing, 1 year here, 2 years here. I'm very interested to see, because I hope Rodon gets as much money as he can, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I would be very interested to see if he may have to sign a 3-year deal or something like that, which he'll make 20 million a year or more for sure,
Yeah.
probably higher than that, 25.
He's got to, because he had 22
Right,
this year, and he could have just stayed and been comfortable at that 22 and said,
right.
"Well, let me do one more year, and then let me get into the 30 range."
Yeah, that would be. I mean, that'd
Um,
be great for him.
yeah.
Here's so I like a lot of that, and I would say Taylor Rogers is a good fallback if they cannot get a starter. I would prefer a starter over Taylor Rogers. I think the Contreras thing is really interesting. I haven't heard him attached to the Giants in any way, so that is super interesting. But what about, there's two other names that have kind of been tied to the team of recent last few days here, and one of them is Kenley Jensen. I saw that out there a little bit, that the Giants would possibly be interested in him. And as an eighth inning guy, I mean, he wasn't the Kenley Jensen of old last year, but he was still
Right.
pretty solid. As an eighth inning guy, would you trust him more than Tyler Rogers?
I would. I mean, he's got the track record, and he's had the big game situations. God knows he's pitched in the playoffs enough times.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'd be fine with that instead of let's say Taylor Rogers.
I think Taylor
Um,
Rogers is the guy you would give multiple years to, right? You would
I
give
think so,
him 3 years, and you'd give Jensen kind of a 1-and-1 kind of thing.
especially because Taylor Rogers may take less money for those 3 years to be able to, because we know Tyler Rogers is tied to the Giants for a while.
Yeah, because they
Um,
still have years on him, right?
yeah, exactly. So to be able to pitch with his brother for 3 years in the majors in San Francisco, I mean, they seem to have a very close relationship. They're twins, right? I mean, so I don't
Twinsies,
think
man.
I don't think you can have a closer relationship than that.
Man, I know the
Oth
twins that are in my household, and these guys
That's
are
true.
just like, there's no closer than identical twins. So,
So you could flick one on the arm, and then the other one feels it? Is that how
like
is that how
like
it works?
I'll just give you a quick story on my stepson. So they're 13, and if you were to sit them on separate sides of the couch, let's say for 2 hours, like you're putting like one of those cameras that just takes a picture like every minute,
Oh, yeah.
and in the end of those 2 hours, they would be like this, like they would just inch towards each other.
That's
and they
great.
would be sitting right next to each other.
Oh,
Like
that is so cool.
well, it's I've only been in their lives for about 3.5 years, so I can't like I kind of make fun of it because to me it's like shocking, but my wife obviously and her ex-husband, they to them it's just like, yeah, this is just how they are. But to me,
Yeah,
I'm
they're
like,
like, we've
wait,
seen this
did
before.
you see, like, they just hated each other. They said, I hope that you get a stomach ache and you throw up. And then 2 seconds later, they're like sitting on each other's lap. I'm like, what's going on here? But no, they're just twins. That is how it works.
That is great because my girls don't do that. They're 2 years apart, and if they're mad at each other, it could last a while until I pull them into the room together and go, "Let's end this, man,
Yeah.
because this house is tense and I don't like it." That's great. I love twins. Twins are fantastic.
It's hilarious. It's so
Yeah. So
it's pretty fun too. It's
oh yeah.
twins. It's not like there's twins in every family, so it's pretty fun.
No. No. So I
Uh,
could see that. I could see that. So 3 years together, those 2 guys, 3 years together. I think that would be awesome. And I have heard Wilson Contreras' name back at the trade deadline.
okay, that's when
Um,
we heard it. Yeah.
right. And Joey Bart, of course, was part of that, Bart
Hmm.
going to the Cubs. So we've heard that. So we've heard a little bit of a tie in that situation. But yeah, Kenley Jansen, I would be very happy with that. And I know a lot of people,
Oh,
the
Dodger.
whole the whole ex-Dodger this and ex hey man, this baseball is not like that anymore.
Our GM, the president of baseball operations came from the Dodgers. Like, we can't really be too picky there.
Yeah, exactly. He came from the Dodgers. Dusty Baker, who was our manager for years, was a Dodger. It happens
Yeah.
nowadays. So
Yeah.
it's not that big of a deal. So I'd
Okay.
be fine with that.
One more player, and I
Mhm.
just looked him up on Spot Track. He is 30. I think this is his age 32 season. Played for the Mariners. Mitch Haniger, who is a free agent last year, had a base salary of $7,750,000. Spot Track has his market value as 4 years, 60 million. So his average would be about 15 million. I don't even, I should have looked this up, but I have no idea what kind of defensive player he is, because the thing that you don't want to do is add, more bad defenders in the outfield, because the DH spot is essentially taken up for 75% of the ABs with Jock.
Yeah, and he's not a horrible outfielder. And he's not a Gold Glove outfielder. He is just an outfielder. He's not going to hurt us. He has a career D-WAR of 0.1. So no, I mean, and again, his
Average.
worst season, his worst season is 2021. His D-WAR was -1. Other than that, for the most part, it's been in the positive. 0.4, 0.5, 0.3, and then this year it was 0. But he only played in 57 games this year because of
Yeah, he
injury.
was hurt.
Yeah, and I've been a Mitch Haniger fan, even though he went to Midi High School.
Oh, I didn't know he was a Bay
Yes.
Area guy.
He's a Bay Area guy. So that's why the
Wow.
talk is possible. He went to Midi and then he went to Cal Poly. And so that's why the talk is, he'd be a good fit for the Giants, come back to San Francisco. Don't know if he was a Giants fan growing up, don't know any of that stuff. But the fact that he lived in the Bay Area, grew up in the Bay Area, went to high school in the Bay Area, that's kind of a draw. And I think you get those ties anytime you hear about that. I've also heard rumors of the Dodgers with Haniger, Rangers. And this is how it's going to go this offseason.
I feel like the Rangers are attached to every player.
That's exactly what it's going to be. Any player you can think of is going to be attached to the Rangers. So
Baggerly had a joke in his mailbag where somebody was like, "Oh, Brandon Belt, with X, Y, and Z," and Baggerly's like, "Oh, you mean with Bochy and the Rangers? Yeah, sure." Like, and then he did the same thing with Bumgarner. Someone said, could the Giants bring back Bumgarner? He's like, "Oh, you mean Bochy and the Rangers? Sure." Like, that may be where some of those guys go, right? Because Boch loves his vets.
Yeah.
He loves the guys he can trust, and the Rangers are going to throw around all kinds of money. We saw last year with Seager and Simeon. So, that I think that's probably an option for just about every single player. And they're probably the team that the agents will use to bid up the team that they really want to go to as well. That's probably how it's going to work.
I can't imagine Belt would not want to go to Texas if they called him, because you've got his home state and you've got Bochy. I mean, that's the perfect storm. If Belt doesn't end up in either Texas or retired, I would be completely shocked.
And now you're hurting my feelings again.
I'm sorry.
Okay, two more players, and I'm just mentioning this more for position than anything else, which is now Cody Bellinger got non-tendered by the Dodgers.
Right.
People are talking about him because he's an above average center fielder, and we know the Giants have defensively frustrating last year. There's also Brandon Nimmo out there. He's probably not. I don't know. I can't imagine the Giants are going to go that hard for him because he's kind of the guy that you add when you're when you're that one defensive outfielder away. You need to get pushed over they need a couple players more than just him. But in my head, like a perfect thing would be like let's get left field figured out, whether that's Judge or whomever. And then if you get a center fielder, and let's say he's going to hit 6th or 7th in the order, fine, but he's going to chase down balls in that big outfield. And then you let Baby Yaz and Slater kind of just take over right field. Both of them can cover that area really well, maybe, above averagely. And then you don't have to, that's the lefty righty there is Slater and Yaz, and everyone sort of has a role, and the team is way more structured than they were last year when everyone's playing all kinds of different positions and nobody knows where they're going, and all of a sudden Yaz has got to play center, and like I like that idea of a little bit more structure and the guys kind of knowing, okay, I just really have to worry about right field. Maybe I'll slide over to left here and there, but I have a focus and I have a structure, and I'm playing ball. Now, unfortunately, Tim Kawakami interviewed Kapler, and he's like, yeah, what do you think about this, the lefty righty thing, and maybe, not doing it as much. And Kapler was not about that life at all. He was like, no, I want to do it more. No, he didn't say it exactly that way, but like you're just like, this is just a thing that the Giants do.
Yeah, and it's ingrained. As long as Farhan is there, as long as Kapler is there, that's pretty much going to be it. Anything we could do to not see, and we won't because Darren Ruff is gone, but anything we could do to not see Darren Ruff in left field, Jock Peterson, maybe 10 games in left field this season.
Yeah.
We saw Tyro Estrada in left field last year. Anything we can do to avoid any of that, I would be ecstatic about it. Adding Cody Bellinger, like you said. So Grant Brisbee has been doing a really good
profiles,
fantastic job.
Yeah,
profiles of free agents on The Athletic. He did a great one about Cody Bellinger. I liked what he said about it's not the first free agent, like you just mentioned too. It's going to be like to shore up your defense.
Sure.
But as a guy who's hit 37 home runs before, it's a guy or 47, right? Like,
oh, you're talking about the MVP year?
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
But a guy who can hit but hasn't hit the last 2 or 3 years, just been absolutely awful the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that's important, right? It's not only a 1-year thing; it's a multi-year thing for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, and that's what we talked about too. Because I think on our text string earlier this week, he said, "But they can. What if the Giants can unlock him?" And I said, "But it's been 3 years. I don't have the confidence. Maybe I mean, gosh, I think it would be a successful year if he could hit 240 with 20 home runs.
Yeah,
and have good defense. But maybe that's good. Maybe that's good if you can just not break the bank on him.
The back of his baseball card is ridiculous.
So weird.
As a rookie, he hits 39 bombs, has a 933 OPS, comes back the second year, batting average is a little bit lower, still hits 25 bombs, plays in every single game. Again, not as great, but 4.15 WAR. 2019, 47 bombs, 115 RBI, 95 walks, 305 average, 8.63 WAR, 1.035 OPS.
Wow.
Like that's an all-time season in baseball. Like, you that MVP season is like, it's not, he doesn't have 60 bombs like Judge did, but man, what a great season that was. And then the next year's pandemic, 239 average. 2021, he plays 95 games and has a 165 batting average. Not walking anymore, because why would you walk the guy? You just pitched to him.
Yeah.
And then last year, 60, he played 130. He started 135 games, and he started for defense for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And 19 home runs, 68 RBI, hit 210, 654 OPS, and was just a 1.13 WAR. So even with the good defense, like, he was almost he was basically a replacement level player offensively.
Yeah, and that's brutal. And us as Giants fans too. This first couple of seasons that he had in LA, we were like, oh my God, we got to put up with this guy now for like 10 years. And then all of a sudden he starts nosediving. And we're like, yeah, this is excellent but of course the Dodgers are like, well, we'll just go get Mookie Betts.
Exactly.
And we'll just trade for Scherzer and Turner. It's fine. We'll fix it.
Dicks.
So now exactly. So now after 3 years of just being not very good, now he's there for the taking for everybody, which is bizarre. You would never have, after that MVP season, if you would have told me that, I would have said, I mean, it had to be some sort of massive injury where like he lost an arm and he's swinging with one arm. I mean, other than that, the guy was crushing everything in the zone. But now you watch his at bats, and it's, you, like you said, you don't have to walk him. You just have to throw him stuff out of the zone and he will swing at it. There are no takes. Can the Giants get him more disciplined at the plate? Probably, but he's not going to hit 280. He's not going to hit 290. He's not going to hit 40 home runs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'd be a great piece. I mean, can you imagine they get Judge, they get, not necessarily Correa, but maybe Wilson Contreras, Taylor Rogers or Kenley Jansen, and then shore up the outfield with Bellinger, and then you've got a really good defense all of a sudden. You got Slater, you got Yaz, you got Judge, and you've got Bellinger. What happens to late night Lamont at that point? Because now if you do that, you've got 4 outfielders. Do you need that 5th outfielder at that point? I don't know. I mean, there's going to be, when we're done with free agency, if we pick up a lot of pieces, this team is going to look very different next year, because you're going to have guys who are out of options that the Giants are going to have to make decisions about, and they're going to be really, really tough decisions, and we're going to hate every single one of them, because we're not going to want to see some of these guys go, because we're going to be thinking of 2021 and not 2022. It's just the way we think sometimes, but it's a tough offseason. When you're 81-81, your offseason is, and you want to win, and you have to compete with the Dodgers, you have to compete with the Padres. Your offseason is going to be tough for the fans.
I'm still thinking of 2014, man. Bring back Mad Bum.
There you go.
Bring back Santiago Castilla.
Yeah.
Bring back, Buster's retired. Sorry.
Bring back the great Juan Perez.
Exactly. Yes. Blanco. Bring them all back, man. I don't care how old they are. All right, quickly, let's talk about, let's let folks know what we're drinking. I know that you secured a specific beer that you were very happy with getting today, and I know you have some whiskey on the way for next week. But what is the beer that you're drinking tonight?
Yeah, I won't spoil it on the whiskey yet, but I've got, so in October, Sierra Nevada, my favorite brewery in the world, has been for years and years and years. They brew the Celebration Fresh Hop IPA every year. And it always comes out. They always hit the social media market with it around October, and they go, "Yeah, we're brewing it. Look for it soon." I go, "October's too early, too early." So, of course, I tell my wife, when you go to the store, if you see it, grab it. Um, and so last week, or actually not even last week, I think it was about 2 or 3 days ago, she was at the store. She saw it, 12 pack, picked it up, and it is one of my favorite beers. I give it a 5 stars on Untapped. If you're on Untapped, come find me. Um, Evans 5150, same handle as everywhere else. Celebration Fresh Hop IPA, one of my favorite. I'm almost done with it too, but no fear, I have 11 more after this one. But this is my first one of the season. It is fantastic, piney, fresh hops, sticky, juicy. Just one of my favorite beers to sip on. It always reminds me of fall and winter, good meats, good barbecue. Highly recommend if you've never had one before.
And I just had something that I've had before, and I'll explain the reasoning. So it's already gone, but I had a Terramana Añejo, and
Excellent.
so for Thanksgiving, I was like, yeah, my kids are of age if they want a cocktail, and my ex-wife, like I said, her significant other are coming, and then my wife. And I was like, oh, like what fun drinks can I have here? And I went to Safeway, and they had some ginger beer, and I was like, oh, everyone sort of likes some sort of mule, so we'll have Moscow mules, we'll have Kentucky mules, and we'll have Mexican mules available for anybody who wants one. And I have all, I have the tins and everything for it. So so that'll be fun if anyone wants to drink that. That's what we'll be drinking. But so I thought about that for today. I was like, I had a mule last week. Should I have another one? It's like, no, let's save it for Thanksgiving. You don't want to overdo it. So I just busted open the Añejo. And what's bad about, so I don't know if you do tequila and you put it in the freezer and frost it. The Rock,
We do that with vodka, but not with tequila.
So The Rock does it whenever he shows his drink on Instagram. It's always a bottle from the freezer. He calls it frosted. And then he doesn't actually use a big rock. He just grabs a handful of ice and throws it in the glass, with his giant hand.
Yeah, and sounds about right.
And then he pours in whichever one, and that's how he has it. But so the thing about the Añejo bottle is the Añejo bottle has a rubber thing where when you pull the top off, you have to pull the rubber off, and then you pull out the top. It's not technically a cork, but it sort of acts like a cork. It's not great when frozen if you have not opened it, because when you open the rubber, it crumbles like broken plastic, and it just explodes all over the place. And this has happened like 3 times now, and I just don't remember that it does. So what I have to remember is drink the first glass and then put it in the freezer so that thing doesn't happen. So that was my problem today.
That's happened to me with the Maker's Mark, the Maker's 46 with the big wax on top of it. And it's, same thing. I've opened that sucker after it's, been cold out in the fridge or out in the garage or something. Just falls all over the place.
Yeah. I made quite a mess. All right. So let's talk about the rest of the things. And these are just kind of news things that happened in the last week. So we mentioned it last week. The Giants offered Jock Peterson a qualifying offer. Some of the fans were like, why? Like, this guy, made $6 million and he overperformed from the $6 million, but you attach a almost $20 million a year deal to him, and maybe he's not as valuable as he is on a 6-year deal. Of course, he was like, what? You're going to pay me 3 times more than I made last year? I'm in. Very smart deal for him to opt into one more year. But, and I think this is where the Giants are going here, is they trusted him because they saw him perform on a 1-year deal, right?
Yeah.
He's not now. So, there's a lot of body shaming going on with one Jock Peterson here with the fan base, which I will not get into. But, I would like to see him come in a little bit better shape. He doesn't have to be Hercules. He doesn't have to be Aaron Judge,
No.
right? But you'd like to see him a little quicker, a little less of anytime as you get older, especially, and not to say that he's old, but as you and I know, I mean, you keep your weight down, like you're constantly working out. But as you get older, like the joints, man, the joints are constantly saying, I would be happier if you dropped a few there, and so as he gets older as well, that'll be a thing for him. But I think the Giants trust him on a 1-year deal to play well and to be a good player. Even though they're paying him 3 times, he's not going to do 3 times as much as he did last year. That's just not how it works. But I think, and if you and I are sort of reading this correctly, he shouldn't be playing in the outfield because that's where his value just drops. And as a DH, he may be able to be a better offensive player just hitting right-handed pitching and not having to worry about defense. And I'm okay with that. But I could see why the move was polarizing for the fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew as soon as I saw, I mean, as soon as you see the number, 19 million, you go, wow, really? That's what they're going to do. But again, I summed it up last week by basically saying you're looking at like a $12 million a year deal because of last year. You figure that in 2 years, 25 million, whatever. It all kind of works out. The production he gave you, plus the supporting cast he's going to get this year, that 19 million is going to look dwarfed when Aaron Judge is getting 40 million a year. No, I don't know what he's going to get, but it's still, he's a good piece. I'd even say a great piece for what the Giants want to do this year. Continue to do this year. Like you said, Kapler is not shying away from the lefty righty. The platoons are going to be there. The matchups are going to be there. We've seen him have a 3 home run game. I just don't think it's as bad of a deal as a lot of people thought when they first saw it, because you're not going to give Jock Peterson right now a 3-year deal. You're just not going to do that. And speaking of working out all the time in the joints and I had a hell of a time trying to just work out today. I was like, I got to work out today. And then I got out there and I was like, I'm not feeling this, man. So I pushed through it and I did it. And I think that's what Jock Peterson, as he gets older, he's just going to have to push through some stuff and just bite the bullet and do it. I don't know if they've had talks about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they've discussed that or not. But I think, and again, from the quotes and everything, I don't know how wild Jock Peterson was about getting the qualifying offer and being put in that position. But again, like we said, he'd be dumb to turn that down. I mean, that's not money he was going to get. I don't even know if he's going to get a 2. He might have gotten a 1-year, $10 million.
Yeah. 1 for 10, 2. I was thinking like 2 for 24 or something like that.
2 for 24. He might have gotten that somewhere else. But he's familiar with San Francisco. He's from the Bay Area. I think he saw the 19 and was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do this again. Obviously, the reports are false that we saw during the season about Kapler losing the clubhouse and nobody wants to play for him anymore.
Kruger,
if that was
man.
the case, yeah.
Larry Kruger was like, oh, this guy thinks he's, intellectual. And I love Krug because I got to work with him back in the day. But, Krug can often say the wrong thing and not know that it is actually offensive. He's been known to do that a few times, but I still like him. He's a good guy. But I think end of the day for Jacques, it was a no doubt about it. Yes. And for the Giants, not so sure, but what's going to happen is, in like 3 or 4 years, Jock's he's going to come in all svelte 1 year to wherever he's playing. And he's going to go, you know what? I was talking to people and they said, once you get to a certain age, you got to drop weight. And then all the other teams that he's ever played for are going to be like, dude, we've been saying this the whole time. And now you finally listen. But he'll figure it out. Cause he's a professional athlete, right? Like that's just what his job is. And, he's getting away with it because he can still he can still play pretty well. But at some point, his body's going to tell him, like, dude, like if you want me to produce, like you need to help me out here.
Well, and the other thing too is if he does that though, if he does lose that weight, is that going to make him a better outfielder?
I mean,
That was the idea last year, and I don't think that's true.
Tangentially, he should be able to get to a ball slightly quicker with less weight on him. It may make him a better outfielder. It may make him a better. He may be able to get the swing around a little bit. Like we went through and the reason why we're sort of like talking about this because we did this whole thing with Pablo, right? Like this was Pablo's whole story. Was
every year, every spring training.
Yeah, and Pablo's Pablo. He's still playing somewhere. I don't think it's in the bigs, right? He was playing like some winter ball or something, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely not in the major. Yeah.
All right, so last thing here, the Giants did their Rule 5 protection. So there's a draft that is upcoming, and anybody that they did not put on the 40-man roster who has had, I believe, 5 years of time with the team and not been put on the 40-man roster is available to be drafted in this Rule 5 draft. Though not too many people get drafted in this Rule 5 draft because don't they lose that same round in the following year's regular draft? There's like some trick to it as to why they just don't, and they have to hold the player on the 40-man for the whole season. And if they don't, then they have to trade them back to the team that they got him for. There's like some wonky rules.
I don't even think it's the 40-man. I think he has to be on the active roster.
So 25 or 26.
I think he's got to be on the 25-man. If you want to send him down to the minors, he basically has to go back to the team. He needs to be offered back to the team. So yeah, that's why I don't think the Rule 5. There are some things that happen in the Rule 5 on occasion where it's like, wow, this guy was a Rule 5 pick, and name me more than 2. I don't think it's happened that often. So it's just one of those things that kind of helps you round out a roster. I know the Giants did it a couple of years ago. I can't remember who it was with, but they had somebody on their 25-man, and then they used him for the first month of the season or so, and then they said, okay, and then send him back to the team that he came from. It wasn't Connor Joe. I want to say it was Connor Joe, but I don't think it was Connor Joe.
In 2021, the Giants picked up Connor Menez. No, I'm sorry. The Cubs picked up Connor Menez from the Giants, so the Giants lost him. And they also lost a first baseman named John Nagowski that the Braves drafted. I'd never even heard of that guy. And they also lost a reliever by the name of John Duplantier. These could be just fake players from like MLB The Show, and I would not know the difference.
These are out of the park generated names, aren't they?
So it was the person that you're thinking of is Dedniel Nunez.
I remember, and then he got injured.
They took him from the Mets and they returned him to the Mets. But this thing goes back to Danny Jimenez is the other one that you're thinking of.
Okay,
he's a right-handed relief pitcher.
Yeah, the Giants have been dipping into the Rule 5 draft the last couple of years, but in the past, it really wasn't their thing. I mean, because again, these are fringe guys. These are guys who've been in the minors for a while. They haven't made it up to the bigs, or they haven't stuck in the bigs, and they're unprotected. They're not on anybody's 40-man. It just gives them an opportunity. The whole thing with the Rule 5 is it gives these players an opportunity to get picked up by another team and possibly make it to the majors. So it's kind of like a second life type of thing.
Yeah.
Again, it's kind of hit or miss. The Giants will probably end up keeping most of these guys who are not protected, and it'll be kind of a no news thing.
All right, so who did the Giants protect, or who did the Giants move to their 40-man? Right-handed relief pitcher Tristan Beck, right-handed relief pitcher Jose Cruz, infielder Marco Luciano, outfielder Luis Matos. Those names we've been talking about all year. a right-handed pitcher, Keaton Wynn, and infielder Brett Wisely, who they traded for earlier that day in exchange for Tristan Peters. And Tristan Peters came over in the deal
For
for
Rosenthal.
Rosenthal. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And so,
Rosenthal went to, we had Rosenthal for what, 2 weeks?
yeah.
Then traded him to Milwaukee
And
for
then he didn't pitch, did he?
Tristan Peters. He did not. He had an oblique strain and never saw any action.
So the Giants did not protect or did not add to the 40-man roster someone who you were following all season long, Hunter Bishop. And I don't know, if you're a team, do you put him on your 40-man knowing that he's been hurt constantly? He's not made it, he's not done well and advanced in the ways the Giants would have wanted. So, that's an interesting one. I know Roger, he wrote a bunch of our friend Roger Munter, who was on this show earlier in the season. He wrote a bunch of profiles on like, yes or no, will the Giants protect these guys? But there's guys like Will Wilson, who we had talked about. The Giants had traded for him. Jairo Pomares, Nick Avila, Michael Streifler, who was someone who they traded for last year. Ricardo Genovez, and Diego Rincones. So all of those guys did not get added to the 40-man. And so there's a possibility that, one or two of those guys could actually get picked up by another team in this Rule 5 draft.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying earlier. You're going to have tough decisions. This is the first time Hunter Bishop this season played more than 80 games in a season. Obviously, 2020 wiped out, but 2019 only played in 32 games. 2021, 16 games. This year, 86 games. He's only played in 134 games in the minors in 3 seasons of minor league baseball. 467 at bats, 178 strikeouts, 223 average, 734 OPS. First round pick for the Giants. And again, it's just going to be, there are going to be tough decisions like this. I don't think a team is going to waste a Rule 5 pick on Hunter Bishop at this point and say, hey, let's get him in here. I think the Giants are going to be able to continue to work with him this season. But there are a lot of familiar names on there. And again, with the Giants, the way they work things, as you saw last year, the Giants don't, they're fighting right now. They set their record for 107 wins the season before. And then they have 80-win season the next season. Now this is a transition season. Are they going to be an 81-win team? Are they going to be a 95-win team going forward? So they're not just pushing guys from the minors up, which is giving, the Hunter Bishops of the world a chance to now move up another level. There's a lot of roadblocks in the Giants organization right now. And I think this, by protecting the players that they did and not protecting the other players that they didn't protect, I think they're showing at this point that like we just have a lot of guys in the minors who are cusp. Too many cusp guys. We don't know what to do with them at this point. We could trade them. We could, but again, is Hunter Bishop a trade piece? Is Will Wilson a trade piece? Not necessarily. They're probably a throw-in piece at this point. It'd have to be like a Kyle Harrison and Hunter Bishop, Kyle Harrison and Will Wilson, for a big player. But the Giants also aren't willing to do that. So I think you just see a lot of flux in the minors right now with the Giants. Just kind of a swampy, stagnant area that there's not a lot of movement. And that's why I think this season of free agency might change that, because you might end up getting a guy who can play second base and be an everyday second baseman, and then move to shortstop next year. What do you do with Tyro at that point? Do you trade him? And then that opens up the floodgates then to kind of move things in the minors. I mean, we're so early in free agency, but it's Thanksgiving. So it's just kind of, we're waiting for everything to like crack open and just burst here at any moment, and it will. As soon as some moves start making. When Judge signs somewhere, when Rodon signs somewhere, everybody else is going to start signing. It's just going to start moving. Those are your
Yes.
two big guys. And at one point they were both tied to the Giants. So, maybe we can get Judge and Rodon back to the Giants, and then everybody else can sign wherever they want.
All right. So the last piece of this is, in order to make room on the 40-man, the Giants had to designate a bunch of players for assignment. Right-handed pitcher Sam De La Plane, one of Brad's favorites, Harleen the Dream Garcia. They had
Hate
to
to see him
designate.
go, man.
Did he get
Love that
picked up?
guy. I don't know yet. I haven't seen.
We'll have to look
I'll
that
look
up.
that up while you read off the other ones. Yeah.
And somebody who the Giants had just grabbed like a couple of days before, Dom Nunez. So I think the hope is that they dump him and he clears waivers and they can keep him. He's a catcher he played for the Rockies. Drew Strotman, another right-handed pitcher. Catcher Mabrys Veloria, infielder Colton Welker, and another Brad favorite, Jason Vosler, had to be DFA'd. So we'll see some of those. I mean, outside of Garcia, I don't know who else would possibly not clear, and they may be able to bring the ones that they want back.
Yeah, I think Dom Nunez, if he clears, Giants will probably try to get him back. Catchers. I mean, the Giants will try to get as many catchers as possible. Harleen the Dream, probably time to move on. He had the last 3 seasons, 2.84 ERA. But he was a kind of a left-handed reliever specialist out of the bullpen last year. Giants really need to remake their bullpen. I mean, that was their strong point in 21, and it was just a mess in 22. So to see names like Kenley Jansen and Taylor Rogers, you're going to see a lot more names for tied to the Giants bullpen going in the next couple of weeks.
All right. I think we are done with this episode. So, so hope that everyone has a great rest of their week, has a great holiday, if that is something that you are doing on Thursday. And Brad and I will be back next week to talk about, hopefully, a little bit more movement in this free agency. And, we'll figure out some of that. There is someone who we want to bring on, and he sent me an email. And it had to do with like chasing down all of the autographs from, I want to say it's the 1978 team, something like that.
I believe so.
And he's got a really cool story. Daniel Brown wrote about him, I believe, in the Merc, like back in the day. So he's reached out to us and he wants to come on. So that'll be a fun one. When we don't have a ton of topics to talk about, slow news week or whatever, we'll bring him on, because I think that's a fascinating, like 78 Giants, like who has stories like that of just going and getting like all their autographs and stuff. So that's fascinating. For sure. And that's a part we've mentioned, like that's kind of a blind spot for us, the 70s. It's not, there's not a lot that we know about 70s, so that'll be fun.
No, I was 5 years old, Garrett.
All right. So for Brad, I'm Double G. Everyone have a great holiday. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.
Gobble, gobble.